This video is produced by Duckett at Wrexham Hypnotherapy. Wholeness isn't about being perfect. It's about healing from self-rejection, and it begins the moment we stop abandoning ourselves. When we start to welcome back the parts of ourselves we were taught to exile, we begin to realize those parts were never the problem. So many people live in the quiet space between self-loathing and survival. It's not always visible, but it's there, that constant ache of feeling broken, unworthy, or fundamentally flawed. In all my years as a mental health nurse, I've seen it, that quiet pain of self-rejection, not in books, but in eyes, in silence. Depression isn't always loud. It doesn't always arrive with tears. Sometimes it shows up as a slow drift, a disconnection from self. A person doesn't need to collapse to be suffering. Sometimes suffering looks like believing, every single day, I'm not enough, I'm broken. But here's the truth that echoes across every story I've witnessed. Depression isn't just sadness, it's a soul exile, a rupture that causes someone to reject the very core of who they are. Shame doesn't just whisper, you're wrong. It rewires the way we think. It hijacks the brain. The default mode network, the part of the brain meant for peaceful reflection, becomes a loop of comparison, self-criticism, and imagined judgment. Hope and joy feel dangerous, and the thought I'm unworthy stops being a passing cloud and starts to settle in like concrete. Healing begins when we name what's really happening, a profound disconnection from soul truth and the sanctuary within. Sometimes that exile breeds quiet, corrosive rage. I should have been better. I should have known how to earn love. But these aren't just thoughts, they're battlegrounds. And healing, it's not a gentle stroll. Sometimes it's a revolution. And I have stood in that battle, not as a bystander, but in the trenches. What I call the tug of love, that sacred tension between despair and possibility. And sometimes, yes, I wasn't always gentle, I was fierce, because the person in front of me had given up and surrendered to hopelessness. And in that moment, gentleness alone wasn't enough. What was needed was a presence that refused to back down. I felt the weight of suicide before it was named. It didn't need words. It hung heavy like static, so I said, I feel it, I see you, I'm here. And something shifted. The tears came. The frozen ache began to thaw, and together we began. This is what healing from self-rejection looks like. Fierce self-compassion, tender truth, and the refusal to turn away from self. I talk about the brain, how it's wired for survival, not serenity, how it sometimes misfires. The emotional brain doesn't reason. It reacts. It responds to shame, fear, and threat. And those reactions, they carve deep pathways, mental highways rehearsed by pain. Soon, the mind forgets there was ever another road home. But here's the miracle. Compassion rewires. When we speak to the brain with kindness, we begin the process of change. The kind that restores hope and finds the way home, back to self. Our brains are not prisons, they are rewirable. I teach that self-compassion is a neural intervention that can reroute shame, that healing is possible. And when people start to meet the rejected self that's been buried, they meet their true self. Not perfection, but presence, wholeness.
From a nurse to a hypnotherapist, I bring all that knowledge and experience with me.
Every story, every silence. Nursing taught me to stand in the storm. Hypnotherapy taught me how to guide people through it with precision, compassion, and a deep respect for the soul. I don't just see symptoms. I see stories. I see love disguised as resistance, longing dressed as self-loathing. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what part of me have I tried to exile? What would it say if I offered it compassion? If I believed I was whole, not perfect, how would I live? You're not alone. If you've ever felt like an outsider to yourself, know this. Belonging isn't something you earn. It's something you remember. And sometimes we just need a guide to help us find the way back. Book your free consultation today, TinaDuckett0@gmail.com.